Welcome to The Leaders Who Care, a podcast powered by Dynamis Group. We are here to give the stage and support to those committed to create a positive and lasting impact, way beyond the profits and margins, the leaders of the world who care for others and serve a bigger purpose. Join us on the journey of creating a better, more caring world. And now to your host, Marian Temelkov.
Hello, everyone. I have the privilege today and to welcome a very special guest. I'm very excited for today's podcast. As you know, we're on a mission to discover and find some of the most caring leaders from every corner of the world. Today, we are hosting Mihail Stefanov. Also, the short version of Mihail is Misho. Misho, welcome. And thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Tell me a little bit about you first, Misho, and where you're joining us from. A little bit about your background will be also very nice. But how is your day starting today, and where you're joining us from?
I live in Sofia, Bulgaria. So I'm joining you today from my home because I had some things to do with the kids this morning and I did not go to the office. But usually I go to the office. I've been living and working here throughout my whole life. I do communications consulting and training. That's quite vague, I know. I work with mostly leaders from big companies, industrial companies and FMCG companies, and telecom and IT, which in Bulgaria is a growing sort of industry. And I work with them, helping them to communicate more effectively with their teams and creating more effective cultures and outside, so externally. Transferring or communicating effective messages to the public, working with media, and so on and so forth.
Excellent. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey? I know this is what your core expertise, but I know how many more things you're doing, which we're going to tap into in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
But for the listeners that do not know you, it would be great if you share a brief history of your journey. Where did it start, and what brought you to do what you do today?
Well, this is quite a big question. I have several big lines in my personal development and my growth. First of all is I think the faith-based journey. So I'm a Christian by faith. So this has always been a big part of my journey, and I've always had this passion for young people, which you and we share. And probably about 12 years ago, I had the privilege of creating the biggest Bulgarian teenage art festival in the poorest region of the country. It's called The Bridge, and currently it is actually a very, very large family of over 1,500 members, kids all over Bulgaria, young artists and musicians. And so working with young people is also a really, really big part of my journey. Working with the businesses, of course. I've been a mountain guide for 4 years. I've been a rock band frontman for 10 years. And what else? I'm doing a lot of things. I'm a father of 2 wonderful girls, and a husband of 1 wonderful girl. And as I joke, thank God it's not the opposite. It's not the other way around. I live a really, really full life.
I definitely see that, and as we say, you recognize them by their fruits. In your fruits, obviously, very healthy, and this is why I wanted to, of course, share. What is the secret of your success, Mihail? Because it's not very easy to live a full life, to have a happy family, to give back, have an extraordinary career, to be financially in a good position, and and also to have friends and make a positive impact while you also keeping in a good shape health-wise. So what gives you strength, and what is the most what is the secret sauce, as we say? This is what we are interested to find out.
If you allow me to grab one of your words and work with it a little bit,
sure.
And that's the word success. I think that it is such a common word nowadays that we all insert a different definition. So I think part of the answer to your question is hides in the definition of the word success, in the personal definition with which each one of us actually uses and adopts as his own motto and credo. We all want to be successful, but the way we measure our success is, I think, the way that defines more or less everything else that we do. Because if we have a picture of success in the future, then we will strive for that success. No matter what, we will try to do everything that we can. So most of the things that you mentioned, good health or giving back to the community and having a somewhat successful business, which I'm not really, it's not a big thing. So, but it's still many companies and their leaders trust me, which I consider a success. But those things, I think, are more or less the results, the fruits, as you said, of my definition for success, but they're not my goals. I think that as soon as being famous or being rich or being smart become a goal, we immediately start losing success. Because I think success, especially in the paradigm, in the context of leadership, success is always measured through the effect that you have on the people around you. And I was interviewed by an American professor who was researching leadership in Bulgaria, and he asked me what's my biggest success. And when I thought about it, I realized that my biggest success, I can actually name 4 or 5 names of people whom I consider my biggest success, because I have participated in their growth, in their life. I have supported them. I have led them up to my abilities as well as I could. And now they're better than me. They're more successful than me. They have went further that I will most probably ever be able to go. So my definition of success lies in the health of the people around me. This includes my family. This includes the people I lead. This includes my clients. And I believe that everything else is just a good fruit, a good result, the consequence of this.
Well, thank you for sharing this. You mentioned something very important earlier, and you said, I do consulting, and I some very impactful leader in Bulgaria, in your country, and mine as well, in a way. My roots are from here, and you said they trust me. That's very interesting, and I think very important about how do you build trust and how do you define it, because it seems like it's a big issue when the trust is not there. And what are your thoughts on trust, and how do you do that? How do you really build trust between people?
With this question, you're opening sort of a Pandora's box. Trust is something that I've been, and I continue thinking about very, very hard. Trust is crucial. You do not have a successful human relationship without trust. There is no communication is possible, and I mean good communication, effective communication is possible without trust. Trust is easy to define, actually, and the definition is not mine. This is a common definition. I think one scientist, her name is Brené Brown. She got really famous for talking about vulnerability as a key leadership trait. So being able to be vulnerable in front of your people. But how she defines trust, and that's the common definition of trust, actually, is the ability or the being willing to take risks with somebody, being willing to be vulnerable with someone. So if you and I, if we are in a business relationship of some sort, and you don't trust me, you will never give me that big contract that I'm striving for, because giving me the contract is actually you become vulnerable. What if I don't meet up the expectations? What if I fail? This means that you are in a vulnerable position. So every time we trust someone with something, we actually put ourselves in a vulnerable position. Because if this person, they decide, if we share a secret, if they tell the secret to someone else, we are at risk. If we show weakness, and we know that they will try to use that weakness to gain profit and to harm us, then we are again at risk. So the extent of trust is actually the extent of to what extent am I willing to be vulnerable with you, and that's the easy part. We understand that right away. But the hard part is how do you gain it? And if we go into communications theory, there are 4 interpersonal trust, because organizational trust, that's something a bit different, as you well know. But interpersonal trust, it has 4 components. First component is competence. So if you trust my competence, if you don't think that I'm a good professional, then you'll never be able to trust me. The second one is reliability. So if you think that I never come on time, that I don't keep the promises that I make, that I'm a man of my word, then you don't trust me. I may be really competent, but I'm not reliable. The third component of trust is honesty. Let's put it this way. It's sincerity. So if I speak behind your back, if I say one thing in front of you, so if I'm a hypocrite, if I say one thing in front of you, but I change my mind, then you don't trust me. I may be reliable, I may come on time, and I may be a great expert, but still you don't trust me because I'm not sincere and I'm not honest. And then the last part, and this is the part where I see most leaders fail, is the so-called connectedness. So do I care for others? This is why I love the title of your podcast. This is why I love seeing the episodes and listening, because caring for others, listening to others, paying attention, close attention when they speak, making them feel important and respected. This is what's called connectedness. And if you're a really good expert, if you're honest and you tell the truth, and if you're reliable, people still might not trust you because they don't feel connected. They don't feel that you respect their opinion. They don't feel that you care about them. So the trust is, as we can see, even on an interpersonal level, it's a really dynamic thing. And managing it actually takes a great deal of self-reflection and takes a great deal of intellectual humility and honesty. Because we need to be able to accept that people around us might see us in ways that we don't like.
What is your advice for people who perhaps miss some of those components, but they would really love to have them all? Is it possible to change? Is it possible to do that? What is your take on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a good client. She's a financial director of a really, really large IT company in Bulgaria. And she's also a good friend. And we did a trust evaluation of her team. So how does the team see her? And it was really interesting because there is one component of competence, and that's the fact that the leader always learns and develops. So the leader always strives to grow and to learn new things and to become a better expert. And this was her lowest result. So the whole team thought that she does not learn and she does not grow. And she was shocked. She was like, last year only, I had 2 certificates. Like, I certified in 2 very difficult programs. And then I asked her, did you tell them that? Do they know about it? And she was like, well, no. I'm like, how do you expect to know? So the first thing we need to ask is, how do people see us? And I advise all leaders, out there who are listening, try and test, ask your people, but find a cool way to ask, because if there is no trust, people will not take the risk to tell you the truth. So the first step is ask the people, which areas do you need to work on? Second step, you might disagree with some of the results, just like she did. She said, but I'm learning all the time. Yeah, but they don't know it. They don't see it. So if there are some areas which you think that they might lack information, you just start communicating in a humble way, not in a, guys, I did 2 certificates last year. No, but just mention what you learned from those experiences. Just share the wisdom and the knowledge that you gained. And then if you agree with some of the things that they say, if you agree that, actually, I think they might be right about this or that, then sit down with the team and start talking and say, hey guys, I agree with this and you're right. And I just realized that I need to work on that, and I need your help as a team. I need your help. This will change everything. This will change, because people will not only feel hurt because you have obviously respect their opinion, but they will also see that you have the will to change, and this will change everything. I promise. And I see it day in, day out with the teams that I work with and with the leaders that I work with. Because as soon as they show vulnerability, as soon as they say, hey, I don't know, I need your help to get started with this, then magical things start happening. But then the biggest enemy here is actually the ego, because that's so difficult. It's so difficult to say, I don't know. It's so difficult to admit in front of your people that you actually, you need to work on something and you need their help.
Well, thank you for sharing this. This is so helpful. So on one end, you may be doing the right things, but you may not communicate them to your people. They may not know about this. So having that kind of reflection or see how people perceive you is also very important. So one thing is you could be who you are and you could be doing all those things, but if they don't know about it, it's probably and it's little subtle things, as you mentioned, that are important in the communication, in the way because sometimes we get so immersed into just business and focus on getting without sharing some of those moments of what you have done or being interested in their development. If you're interested in their development, they will be interested in yours. Simple as that. They will say, hey, what do you do? Maybe start with them first. And in terms of the ego, it's a big thing I see everywhere. As the more senior I see people, the more difficult I guess it gets, but it depends on the personality. What is the advice to people who have big egos? How should they manage that to help them?
Well, my friend, I think this is a question that it's a difficult question, because people with the big egos, they would never listen to my advice.
It's showing vulnerability already. Now you get my attention. If I'm not gonna listen, maybe I should listen.
Yeah. This is some guys about. I'm leading a company. Market evaluation 1 billion. Like, what can he share? So I think intellectual humility is a really, really interesting quality. And that's why we always joke that I usually train people that don't need my training. So those who need it the most, they would never call me because they think they don't need it at all. But this is called a blind spot. Okay, so inflated egos, if I can use this word, they're just like big balloons. Okay, sometimes they might look really fancy on the outside. But what a big balloon usually does is, it's first of all, it's full of air. And second, it actually stops you from seeing the great view towards the mountains. Okay. So if you have a big balloon in front of your face, you can see nothing else but the balloon. And that's what an inflated ego does for a person. It actually becomes a big balloon in front of your eyes, and the only thing that you can see is yourself, but you have a really distorted picture. Have you ever drawn, as a kid, have you ever drawn a little tiny person or a stick figure on a balloon that was not inflated, and then inflate the balloon? What happens to the stick figure? It deforms, okay? So the ego is the same thing. The more you blow, the more deformed picture of yourself you get. And and then once the balloon is really, really big, well, then you can see nothing else. And then everybody else see a guy that has a balloon in front of his eyes. But the guy sees only a balloon, and he thinks this is the reality. So this is the problem with big ego. And when somebody comes and says, hey, you've got a balloon in front of your eyes, they're like, no, you're crazy. I don't want to listen to you. I don't need your advice. And that's why these people, they rarely manage to form long-lasting, effective teams. People with big egos are so focused on themselves that people around them, they might stay, but they're motivated by things like interest or, until I find a better place to work or stuff like that. But you don't build real loyalty, because you build real loyalty by serving others. And that's the only way, by caring for others. That's the only way. And to care for others, you need to remove the balloon. We can never get rid of our egos, but we need to be able to sort of manage them. How do you do that? Well, it is such a deep question, because the ego is such a deep thing in terms of anthropology, in terms of humanity. The ego is such a deep part of us. How do you manage the ego? It might become even a spiritual question, but if I have to give simple advices that people can implement in their daily lives, that would be, spend some time with the office cleaner, okay? And just shut up and ask, shut up. Don't speak to the person, ask questions, show genuine interest to the person, and try to understand the world that they live in. And try and do this once a week. Just, talk to people who are so under you in terms of position that you otherwise would never notice them. This is a really, really great medicine for inflated egos. So I think that's a practical advice that I give.
Love it, Michail. This is so helpful when you're sharing this. So I love the metaphor you used. So guys, if you want to see beautiful world and not distorted picture, talk once a week to people that you wouldn't have otherwise talked because of their position, and see how it goes. I get, someone said to me, if you don't have an ego, you are either at two levels of, either you are so low and depressed about yourself that you do not have any ego left, or you are so high in terms of your spiritual growth and you really live at the highest level of spirituality. Anything in between, the ego is there. The question is how inflated it is. So we're not criticizing anything or anyone. We're just saying that, what are the consequences of doing certain things and how this could help and serve. Everyone has it. I guess if they're not in those two levels at the beginning or at the end, so either so depressed or so high in terms of your growth.
If you allow me, just to a small joke here. The moment we say we are so high in our spiritual growth that we have no ego, we are actually not high in our spiritual growth at all. So that's a really tricky situation. It's a funny one. I have a favorite writer. His name is C.S. Lewis, and he's the author of Narnia, the Chronicles of Narnia. He's also a great expert in English literature, a great writer and philosopher. And I really love reading Lewis. And one of the things that he actually says about one of the things that one of his biographers writes about him is that there came a point in his life when he stopped thinking about himself. So, and he just lost interest in himself, which was really interesting, because we are trying to fight the ego as if it is something that's really evil, and we try to suppress it. But actually, what actually being humble is, the definition for humbleness is not thinking bad things about yourself. It's not thinking about yourself. I think this was one of the. I read it as when I was in my 20s, and I was really inspired by this fact, and I discovered how difficult this is. But actually, Luis himself says that when you're able to see another being, be it a tree or a human being or a dog or whatever, and you're able to accept its existence outside of you, so you accept that this person, they have nothing to do with you, they exist up completely outside of you, and you're able to enjoy this fact, then he says you're on a good way, because you're able to see the world with so many trees and dogs and people existing, and you're not the center of this universe. You're just part of it, which I think is a good step.
I love it. Well, Mish, thank you so much for sharing so many valuable advices on leadership, on trust, on ego, and actually how to deal with that. Certainly has been very, very helpful, and we encourage many leaders and people that are on their way or striving or testing. Try out, see how it is for you. You might like it, and what is the reward if people actually have that connectedness and that trust with people? What is the feeling? Because some people have never experienced that feeling. They wonder why this is the case, and they're constantly fighting. They try to fix a lot of things themselves, but it's not working because there's no trust, and people really do not. You cannot force people. You cannot cannot force love. Love is given. It's they either love you, and I think a great indicator of leadership is, what do people say about you when they are with their family and talk about you? And if they talk good things about you, then hey, that's a new level of measurement of leadership versus he is a selfish guy that doesn't care about anyone else, in that sense. So tell us about, what is the feeling of being on the, making it, transitioning it. You talk to so many leaders, and I'm sure you've seen some great transformations in your practice.
The only person I could call my mentor is an amazing person. He's a doctor in classical philology, expert in ancient Greek, a really, really wise and loving, and he's like a father figure in my life. One day I was complaining to him that I'm probably the most mocked, but not mocked in a bad way, just like joked with. I'm the most joked with leader in Bulgaria, because all of my people, all the teams that I lead in all of the projects that I have, all of them, they love joking with me all the time. They're like making fun and just like, but then when I say, let's do this, all of them just jump and do it. And they don't ask questions. They just love it. So I was like, one day thinking about that, I was like, why are they making fun of me all the time? But then at the same time, they're like, doing everything that I want them to do. And I shared this with him, and I was like, it's just a funny fact. And he said, first of all, this means that they feel safe. Okay, they feel safe with you, which is actually trust. Trust is being able to make fun with the boss. At some point, of course, not mock him, not disrespectfully, but just like in a funny, really, really nice way. And he said, I believe that this is a crucial part of a very, very important part of the culture that you build in your team. And that's the first thing. So you should keep that. And second of all, you really want them to make fun of you while you're there, because you cannot imagine how many leaders are there that their people are actually making fun of them while they're absent. and he said, I think you've got the better version, my friend. So then I just accepted this fact that, yeah, I think this is how my people show their love, but they're achieving great results. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I can take, and that's good for my ego. It's like popping my ego once or twice per week, just to see if it is not inflated too much. And that's fine. But the results usually are, and the fruits usually are, a deeper relationship with people. And if we see so many surveys about happiness, we pursue happiness, and we believe that success equals happiness. And again, our definition of success, because that's. However, I think we should reverse, and we should say happiness equals success. And true happiness actually lies, and all the research in the world confirms this, lies in the quality of relationships. So if you have the level to which you have quality relationships is the level to which you think you're happy. And this is why we can actually, this is what helps us understand why people from really poor countries consider them happier than people from very rich countries where depression and mental health issues and loneliness are becoming like a pandemic. I think the real pandemic in the West is not COVID. I think it is loneliness and self-centeredness and disconnection, broken relationships. And when we have the broken relationships, then we're not happy anymore. But we somehow have believed that career and physical material achievements will bring us happiness. They don't have to. So I would say you actually you reach happiness, a greater state of happiness when you build these deeper connections. For some people, however, it will be really difficult to do that because they have their own picture of success. This is why I started with the idea that it all streams from your picture of success.
I love what you just said, and that actually the happiness is equal to the quality of your relationships. And in the West, we see a lot of people that are not happy. They take medicine, suppression, antidepressants, and that's quite common, and to even children are started to turn into this. So, or teenagers, and this is something which doesn't have to be that way. There is a remedy. There is a way that you can do it, and just start paying attention of how you can serve, how you can take care of others. But what is your advice to people who are in that position today? How could they come out of it? Because you said everything is possible in terms of you can change about the trust and many things. And I personally convinced that anyone can change at any moment of their life as long as they really want to and ready to put up with the pain they have to go through.
Well, how do you deal with with depression and darkness inside of you that goes a little bit beyond my professional expertise, and all the advice that I might give will be just an advice of someone who has fought darkness and depression, rather than someone who has the answer. But again, it is relationships that take us out usually. And this is a vicious circle for someone who has broken all their relationships trying to be successful and happy. And when they reach the bottom, they suddenly realize that they don't have relationships to take them out. And that's a really vicious circle for me personally. It's part of my personal journey. It was my relationship with Christ that brought me out of my darkness. But I believe that this is a personal journey, so my goal here today is not to preach or promote any religion. But since you're asking for me personally, this was what took me out of my darkness, and what sort of set me on a path of serving others. I think that serving others, it's so easy to say that, and this is why I try to I'm always really cautious when I need to advise the leaders I work with that they need to serve others, because I think the most logical question is why. Why should we do that? Because we live in a world that has largely accepted that human beings are mostly come here by chance. We're just some sort of a universal accident. And when you think human beings are this, then you don't understand why you need to serve them. And that's really deep. That's worldview level of belief. So if you believe that, and I tell you should serve them, you'll be like, why? If the strongest or the fittest survive, why should I serve others? That's counterintuitive. That's I should try to survive. I should try to be on the top of the food chain, right? This is what makes most sense. So it's really difficult for me to, if someone has this idea, this picture of what success, again, of what success looks like, it's really difficult for me to tell them you need to serve others. Why? So it's all about our internal picture of our values and what we believe in. On the other hand, I think that there are some values that are destructive. For instance, it sounds logical that we need to be on the top of the food chain. It sounds perfectly sound, but on the other hand, we have seen the end of all of those people who believe that they need to be on the top of the food chain. They end in depression, loneliness, or commit suicide. Why? Well, because you break everything that makes you human if you behave like this. So it's really interesting. It's a philosophy that we have, but if we live it to its fullest, it actually takes away everything that makes us human.
I remember, Misha, once you told me thank you for sharing what was your remedy and that Christ took you out. That's very helpful and in many ways. But you also mentioned something before in a different conversation. You said, I'm okay to do small things or big things. I do not necessarily have that concern of what I'm going to do. And what gives you that peace? Because sometimes people find peace in having goals and say, let's reach this goal, next goal, the other goal, and is he always running to get the goal? But somehow it's goal after goal, and you never do things with an ease, with blessing, with that kind of, everything happens naturally because they're just following the goals. and when you said that, look, what I do, a big thing or small thing, I'm all right with either of them. But talk to me more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Last year, I love tent camping, but like wilderness camping. I love not having running water and cooking on fire and stuff like that. So I really love that. And Bulgaria is perfect for this. So last year we were with my family on a high mountain lake camping. And one morning I woke up before the sunset, and I just went out, started the fire to make some tea. It gets really cold there, even in the summer. And I started waiting for the sunset, and the sun was rising up, and you could see it through the pine trees. It's really, really beautiful, reflecting in the lake. Amazing morning. Early in the morning, the high mountain lakes, they have this sort of mist above the lake, and it gets this eerie feeling of being somewhere else but not on Earth. It's really, really special. And then suddenly I realized something that was quite painful. I realized that throughout my whole life, I have felt deep inside of me that I'm born to do great things. And I suddenly realized that that's not the case. It was back at that lake that I realized that this is most probably an illusion. This is most probably a self-deception. Most probably in my life, I will not be particularly great or famous or rich. And I realized it with great power. It hit me so hard that I cried. I literally shed a tear. I was mourning my the destruction of my internal feeling of greatness, And I realized, but back then, that my whole life up to that point had been preparing for something bigger. Okay, so I'm living now, but I'm preparing for something bigger. I'm working on this project, but this is probably a project that's taking me to something bigger. I am reading a book and it's preparing me for something bigger. And I realized that trying to go to something bigger, which might never come, which was the painful part. But the liberating part was that, it might not come. But actually, I was sitting on the shore of a mountain lake, having quiet time and brewing my tea from a fire that I started. And I suddenly realized that I'm most probably not going to be great, but this pursuit of greatness that I have been enslaved by. So I was enslaved by that without realizing it. It actually stole away, robbed me from being able to enjoy life, to enjoy and to admire, to observe and to notice things, which was a great thing. And I'm being really honest with you, as you can say. I'm being really sincere, because I don't think this is something that we need to hide or something. But to be honest, it was not back then, but it was sort of the closing of this chapter in my life where I really wanted to do something great, something big, something. I just realized that, and this is one of the great things that which when I met Christ, I believe he did in me, was this new identity and new security about who I am. A great part of the things that I was doing before was trying to prove to myself and to the world that I have value. One of the things that happens to you when you become a Christian is that you receive value. And this value is eternal value. You are being made in the image of God. So you have eternal value. Regardless of the stupid mistakes that you make, regardless of anything else, you are made in a great way. You are such a special creature, and you don't need any other value. That's why I realized that the scope of the things that I work on, the volume of my turnover, my annual turnover of my business, or the big names that are on the list of clients, they don't add to my value. So I can work with big names. I can work with small names. None of this changes my value. And when this became a deep truth, I was like, well, that's fine, And what's interesting, Marian, though, is that when this happened, bigger and bigger and bigger companies started calling me without me looking for them, because suddenly I was like, yeah, that's fine. I can go in the town of Blagoevgrad and train a group of teenagers for, I don't know, 50 euro. But then I can train the board of directors of such a big company such as Lidl in Bulgaria and get 20 times more, whatever the case may be. And I don't feel more special when I train the Lidl guys. I just love the kids, so that's fine. And I think this has to do more with who we believe we are rather than what we think we can do.
Misha, thank you so much for this inspirational, really, and sharing a lot of your personal stories, and really that being vulnerable and sharing some of those secret moments, special moments with yourself. That certainly touched myself, but I'm sure the other listeners. And we have quite a few questions. If you don't mind, it's a question time. I wanted to ask a few questions here. First is Danina Stoiver, who's actually actively involved in this, who can. It's a great story. How do you empower others and contribute to their personal growth? Is the first question.
Danina, this is such a great question. Thank you. As politicians say, thank you for this question. but no, this is such a great question. I think it's actually easier than many people think. Many people think that we need to have some kind of special knowledge. we need to be so wise, and we need to read 20 years in order to be able to give advice to people. The older I get, the more I realize that people more often than not need my presence rather than my advice. So they need me being there, listening to them, caring about them. And I would say 70% of the time that's the case now. And I think the more my kids are growing, I think the percentage will grow with them. Because what we rarely do with each other is sit together, listen to each other deeply. And I think this is the best thing you can start with, Darina, is listen to the people around you. Try to get to know them, give them time. Try to understand what they need. And then you'll find a myriad ways how to support them and how to build them. But it all starts with attention giving.
And please put away your phones. Make sure you do not have phones with you. I mean, this is one of the most important thing when you start listening.
Yeah, absolutely. Multitasking might work for some operational stuff, but it's not good there. But it's detrimental to relationships. It's crazy. It's crazy because there is one research that shows that when two people are talking and one of them takes out their phone and places it on the table, interpersonal trust decreases by 30% right away just by taking the phone out, because the other person feels threatened that you don't pay attention to them.
Oh, listen to those stats, guys, and start acting. This is my advice. Great. Next question we have from Gabriel Bogdan over here. Gabriel, thank you. Great podcast. Thank you, Mission, Marian, Mihail. What has been your great inspiration that you would always keep you head up along the way, even in very difficult times?
Hi, Gabi. Thank you for the question. I would say faith. The idea that I received when I became a Christian, that I am part of a greater plan, and I have my role to play, and that I'm not alone in this role. So I think one of the big challenges for the contemporary person is the cosmic loneliness that we feel. Mm-hmm. When we look at the universe and you see only cold stars and vacuum, and we feel cosmic orphans. There is an American psychologist that uses the term cosmic orphans. And when I became Christian, this immediately disappeared. And I felt that I am on a road that's being that I'm guided by a greater hand. And even when it becomes difficult, I'm not alone, but I know that I need to persevere. I need to push on. Because the plan is greater than I am, and I need to do it. So this has been a great inspiration for me to overcome difficulties.
Thank you. What a great thing. And of course, the last question we have from Stoyan Yankov, somebody very dear to both of us. What an inspirational episode. Thank you. What is the difference between servant leadership and transformational leadership? Which one would you recommend us to apply?
Transformational leadership is a really, really big topic currently. Leadership in general in the past several decades has exploded in terms of research and surveys and all of that. Transformational leadership is a concept of leadership where people are in the center. So you try to help people transform, become better, empower them, big words like that. And you try to do this because you want the organization to be able to achieve the best results possible. And I really love this approach to leadership because it includes a really good realization. And that's the realization that it is not possible to achieve great results without great people. And when I say great people, I don't mean only competent, but I mean healthy, empowered, people working in an atmosphere of trust, encouraged, and so on and so forth. So transformational leadership is how do we create this atmosphere? How do we lead groups of people in such a way that they reach the best of their abilities, the fullest of their potential? And I think transformational leadership is a great approach. All of the researches that compare servant leadership with transformational leadership, though, They show that servant leadership approaches outmark transformational leadership results by 7 to 15% on different aspects. And the reason is simple. Servant leadership uses probably the same tools, but there are two main differences between transformational leadership. First main difference is people are not only means to an end. So you don't want to encourage and empower people to achieve business goals. People become one of the business goals. So in the end, when we measure results, we don't say, hey, we have this increase in profit only, but we say we have this increase in profit and we have increased mental health and all of that. We have increased growth in people significantly. So you have two outputs. This is the first thing. People become an output. They become a goal by themselves in servant leadership. And the second thing is the attitude and character of the leader. And I think servant leadership is probably the most difficult thing to do, because it focuses greatly on who the leader is before going in what the leader should do. And that's the second biggest issue. But this is why it achieves results, and it's the most difficult type of leadership that you can actually implement.
But by the sounds of it, is also the most impactful in terms of scoring.
By a margin, yeah.
By a margin. So, well, what a great question. Well, thank you for, Mihail, you've actually answered so much. There's so many more questions to ask you, but just to kind of wrap it up with a couple of more questions. One of them is, what excites you these days? What are the things that give you energy, joy, excitement?
I started playing the trumpet almost 1 year ago. This has been a long dream for me because I'm a guitar player. I sing, but I've never played, a horn. So I started to play trumpet. It's a really difficult instrument. It's great. If I knew it was that difficult, I don't think I would have ever started it. But music is one of the things that actually inspires me. And we still play with some friends, and we do stuff. And that's one of the things. What really excites me is that I'm probably going into another period of my life stage where I have invested a lot in people around me, but in the past 1 or 2 years, I see sort of sudden growth in people that we have walked together for quite a while. And now they become more mature, and they become more capable, and they become wise. And it's such a pleasure to work with them and to serve with them and to do everything that we do together, that now I feel really excited about this new stage of being part of 1 or 2 really, really amazing teams of people that have grown so much. And this is a great excitement. Also, my kids, I love my kids. I love playing. I'm a really playful person. So I love playing with them, and I can't wait to finish my last 2 projects next week and just shut the office down for a month and just go do some tenting and all of that. So that also really excites me, the opportunity to, just stop working for a while and just have a book, a hammock next to my favorite lake and just watch for wait for the sunrise.
Love it. What a great way to find. And this is maybe another advice to all those leaders that have family. Find things that you guys connect with and you love doing together. That will give you, that deeper quality of relationship with your very own family, and will stay with you for as long as you live, and that. So find that joy. So thank you for sharing this. And last question, Mihail, is, what is your vision for better, more caring worlds? What's your kind of short and long-term vision?
Wow, you got me here unprepared. You see, I don't think I have a vision for the world. I'm not a person who thinks that they're important enough to have visions for the world. I have a no. Honestly, like if you ask me 5 or 6 years ago, I'd have probably gave an answer. The only thing that I truly believe is that we need to do everything that's up to our abilities to make the tiny fragment of the world that belongs to us. And when I say belongs to us, I really love the metaphor of the gardener, Marian. I think it's such a powerful metaphor because, we are gardeners. We are not owners. You don't own the people that work for you. You don't own the company that you own in terms of ownership, because sooner or later, you will own nothing. And that's the only certain thing in human existence, that if it started, it has a physical end. What happens afterwards depends on your religious ideas and beliefs, but it has a physical end. So after this physical end, all religions and even atheistic ideas agree that you own nothing. So we are not owners, we are gardeners. We have been given a tiny piece of the garden, and we have been instructed to work it well. So I really believe that if more people accept this idea that they have their own piece of the garden and they need to care well for the trees, and the trees be metaphor for the people, and they need to serve this garden well, I think that we will move a tiny step in a better direction than we are now. It's about personal responsibility. What do I do today and tomorrow in my world with the people around me? I think that's, if I have a vision for the world, that will be the boldest vision that I would ever have.
I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. We are here for a period of time. We don't know for how long. So while we're here, do the best we can to serve and take care of the garden, as Misho says, and everything else, will work itself out. We just need to do our piece and take full responsibility for our part. The world is a living organism. We do not need to change it. It's perfect as it is. We can impact it positively by doing our own bit. So what a great way to end. Misho, thank you so much for joining us today and being so, sharing all these personal stories and showing your vulnerability. And thank you for your trust and making the time. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you for inviting me, and good luck to everybody that's listening also. I hope that you guys have a lot of success with the right friend of mine.
You know what? If it's God's will, let it be. We are not. We're perfectly fine at what we're doing, and wherever it takes us, we have absolutely no pressure. We're here to serve, as you said. So thank you so much once again for joining.